Hi Year 3, so we're carrying on with The Firework Maker's Daughter. We're still reading chapter 3 and today you need to turn to page 45. Yesterday we read up to here where Chulak and Hamlet had just managed to escape and they'd set off into the dark streets. But someone was watching Welchand. One of the slaves who'd come to play Elephant's Footsteps was hiding under a bush nearby, and as soon as he realised what he'd seen, he began to tremble. Helping the white elephant to escape was a terrible crime. There'd be a terrible punishment, and there might be a great reward for the person who pointed out the criminal. So while Welchand began to trudge homewards, the slaves silently followed him to find out who he was and where he lived. Chulak and Hamlet walked all night, and when morning came they slept in a little valley under some thick trees. A valley? Should we take a look at a picture of a valley? They woke up in the afternoon, and while Hamlet browsed on the leaves, Chulak went to the nearest village to ask the way to the Emerald Lake. He came back with an armful of bananas and some news. "Guess what, Hamlet? We're in luck. This is the night of the full moon. The water goddess comes out of the lake and grants people's wishes. Couldn't be better, my boy. Finish your leaves and let's be moving." They weren't the only people going to the Emerald Lake. The jungle paths were busy with families carrying picnic baskets, and even a troop of monkeys was heading in the same direction. Just before the sun set, Chulak and Hamlet saw a young man busily pinning up notices on the trees beside the path. Chulak was about to read one when the young man caught sight of him. "Hey, I know you," he said. "And him." "We know lots of people," said Chulak. "Is this the right way for the Emerald Lake?" "Just along there. Here, can I?" The young man looked bashful. Bashful? What do you think bashful means? So if you're bashful, it's like you're a bit shy, a bit timid, or you're easily embarrassed. Chulak knew what he wanted. "Kneel down, Hamlet," he said. "Customer." Hamlet couldn't say anything with the young man there, but he gave Chulak a severe look as he knelt down. The young man daubed something on Hamlet's side with a stick and some mud and gave Chulak a coin. Daub. That's an interesting word. So if you daub something, it's like you're covering something or coating something with something sticky. So in this situation, he was coating or painting some writing with mud on Hamlet. So he daubed on him. "Thanks," he said. "Wait till I tell the boss." And he ran off. Chulak read what he'd written. "Eat at Rambashi's Jungle Grill." "Rambashi?" Chulak said. "I've got an uncle Rambashi. He used to be a chicken farmer." The notices on the trees were advertising the Jungle Grill as well. It was opening that very night, and there were meals at half price if you brought in a voucher from one of the notices. "It'd be nice to see Uncle Rambashi again," Chulak said. "Come on, it'll be dark in a minute." They hurried on. Soon they came out on the shores of the Emerald Lake. Under the trees at the edge of the water, there stood some houses on stilts. Houses on stilts? Have you ever seen a house on stilts? Let's take a look at a picture. So there stood some houses on stilts with cooking fires and coloured lanterns, and as the tropical darkness covered the sky in less than 5 minutes, Chulak and Hamlet entered the village. Naturally, a white elephant with an advertisement written on him caused a sensation, and soon Chulak and Hamlet were being followed by a crowd of excited children and some older people with nothing else to do. Even the troop of dancers getting into their costumes for the ceremony couldn't resist, and the dancing mistress had to run after them with her mouth full of safety pins to pull them back and scold them. So if you scold someone, you tell them off. "Which way to Rambashi's Jungle Grill?" Chulak asked, and someone pointed along the shore to where a wooden building stood on stilts over the water. There was a terrace with coloured flags, and tables with checkered tablecloths, and lamps made out of wine bottles, and a cloud of smoke was coming from the kitchen, with the sounds of sizzling and bubbling, and the smell of grilling meat and fish and spices. "Just in time, Hamlet. What do you think of that? And that's Uncle Rambashi," said Chulak. Rambashi, wearing a white apron over his tartan sarong, was ushering some customers onto the terrace when he saw Chulak. "Chulak, my boy! How delightful to see you! And your friend? Your pet? This is excellent mobile advertising billboard." Come in, dear boy. Voucher? Oh, don't bother with that. Free food for everyone, in honour of the ceremony of the full moon. Of course I'll lose money on it, but we'll soon make it up. Wonderful publicity. Yes, that's right. Ladies and gentlemen, free meals tonight. What about us? Said a waiter. When do we get our supper? Customers first, said Rambashi. You and the boys can have as much as you like later on. I thought you were in the chicken business, said Chulak, tucking into a big plate of prawns and rice in satay sauce. Yes, but I had to give that up. I felt sorry for the hens, Chulak. So we took to the transport business for a while. River taxi, you know, with some freelance work on the side. What was that freelance work, do you think? That was their piracy, wasn't it? But then came the opportunity to invest in the restaurant trade, where my talents truly lie, Chulak. Yes, madam, our grilled lake trout is exquisite tonight. May I suggest some saffron rice to accompany it, and a flask of jasmine wine? Yes, all free, no charge, compliments of the house. The Jungle Grill was certainly doing good business. It would have been, if Rambashi had been charging for it. I hope he knows what he's doing, Hamlet, Chulak said, as the elephant browsed quietly on the banyan tree that overspread the terrace. He reckons it'll be such good publicity that they'll come back when he starts charging. I'm not so sure. Still, the food's good. Smoky, but tasty. Rambashi's cook was having trouble with the grill, which he kept having to throw water over when it got too hot. Clouds of smoke and steam kept billowing out, and the waiters rushed to and fro with full plates and dirty plates and flasks of wine and menus and coconuts full of ice cream. Meanwhile, the village elders were preparing the lakeshore for the full moon ceremony. Chulak and Hamlet, full of supper, wandered along to have a look. The sand was swept and smoothed, lanterns were hung in the trees, and blossoms of all colours were scattered on the water. Blossom is like a flower that grows on a tree, usually before the fruit grows on a tree. Shall we have a look at some blossom? So the blossoms of all colours were scattered on the water. The path from the temple to the lake was crowded several deep on either side, and Chulak had to climb on Hamlet's back in order to see. Then the ceremony began. A great drum sounded 3 times, and an orchestra began to play, gongs and xylophones and drums and cymbals and flutes. A line of dancers came out of the temple and swayed down the path towards the lake, their fingernails snapping and flicking like fireflies, and their golden skirts shimmering in the lantern light. The headman of the village struck a light and lit a scented candle in a paper boat, which he floated out onto the lake. The incense made the air sweet and rich. Very soon other paper boats were floating out to join it. And then a little child pointed at the treetops on the far side of the dark lake and said, "Moon!" The full moon was rising, and as it rose the music rose too, the gongs and the xylophones and the cymbals all summoning the goddess from the lake. And then she was there. Though no one had seen her arrive, it was as if she'd come when they were looking away, and when they looked back, they saw her. No one had really looked away. She was floating to the shore on a raft of water lilies, a beautiful lady in a robe the colour of the moon, with silver rings and amulets and a necklace of jasmine flowers. And we're going to pause there for today.